But there's another aspect to this. Is the Prime Minister, in the way in which he's presenting this, is he guilty of setting the stage for his loyalists, his most loyal supporters, to then target members of the opposition New Democratic Party through violent confrontation or any other sort of confrontation they could think of on the basis of a declared statement by the former about an assassination plot on his life? Out of the state of the New Democratic Party in its anxiety to grab hold of office? Is he guilty of this? We are into dangerous territory here. I ask you, Jeff, do you remember the case of Auden Graham? When Auden Graham was merely saying, if the situation as is continues, then such and such are to be the likely. But the ruling regime was so anxious to show its power that the next thing you know, the legal fraternity had Auden Graham in his clutches. Happily, the justice system understood the context, and Graham was a free man. But Auden Graham's presentation was led to him being charged virtually with inciting. Inciting violence. Can the Prime Minister and leader of the ULP be then charged with inciting of some sort based on his presentation and a seeming link between the NDP's desire to grab hold of powers, having been in opposition so long, and the assassination? The juxtaposition of the two issues, were they deliberate? What was the intent of the juxtaposing of these two issues? You have lawyers all over the place, you know. And we have so many lawyers who are politicians. What are the implications of what was being said at his convention? Then there is the Nancy Story part. Here it goes as is reported in Eyewitness News. Quote. Listen to this, eh? Listen to it carefully. This is a Prime Minister, you know, possessive of a PhD. Listen to it. Quote. So I spoke to the people who spoke to the people in SCL, and spoke to the people who want to sell our passports. And they say that the main man say that in relation to Ralph now, it's personal. Well, I have long suspected that. Well, they will get another chance again. And there are some people, some financiers of the NDP, some crazies in the NDP, some fanatics. They want not just to remove Ralph. They're looking for anything, anywhere. They want to jail Ralph. And I am telling you, some even want to kill Ralph. I am not saying that lightly. End of. So here we go again, folks, as we did in January of 20. Understand the dangerous nature of what is being said here. We are all aware that politics give rise and often thrive to some extent on near fanatical support. Parties seem to thrive on possession of a cadre of people who are willing to go to all lengths in support of and defense of their party. This kind of presentation is dangerous. Dangerous. Just another look is of the view that Gonzalez may well be caught up in some sort of martyrdom syndrome. He seems to have a sort of fixation with assassination plots against him. Just another look is of the view that no one wants to kill Gonzalez. No one wants to kill Gonzalez. There is nothing to be gained in doing so. But no one told us how some people got Vincentian. Are we finding another name other than citizenship by investment for some people? Did Ames get Vincentian citizenship? Under what terms and conditions? You remember the man who got a diplomatic passport and then was held in London? I mean, are we suggesting that it's not a suggestion anymore, because it seems to be that being led down a path that is particularly dangerous and must attract the attention of everyone. The New Democratic Party has to find a way of understanding what are the implications here for it as an organization. What it is saying, or what it may very well lead to. Gonzalez may well be seeking to write his own political history. What he has written so far, not many people appear eager to read. But he's not the master of the history of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. History would not absolve him. The biggest faux pas for the year, the biggest foop of the year. Earlier this year, February to be exact, Vincentians were led to believe that one Mr. Nesbitt Frederick III was as director of the Vincentian Bureau of Standards. Ezra Ledger introduced him, quote, a very esteemed scientist, a graduate of the Santiago State University, certified in cannabis science and medicine by the University of Vermont Department of Pharmacology, accepted into the university's post-PhD medical program because of his 27 years of experience in medical cannabis, has a culinary arts degree from California Culinary Arts Academy, and incorporates his knowledge of the properties of cannabis into his cooking for high-profile athletes and actors. That's how our local head of the Bureau of Standards, Ezra Lezer, introduced this man. He was a scientist to come here to test Vincentian marijuana. Well, dear friends, they all gathered in their numbers because this was a momentous. The esteemed marijuana scientist was in this country to test our marijuana, and did exactly that in the presence of this country's Minister of Finance, Camilo Gonzalez, the Minister of Agriculture and seeming government lead on the current medicinal marijuana foray, Saboto Caesar, and a whole host of other quote-unquote important people. No one appeared to have questioned Nesbitt's credentials. At least not until the news broke of his testing visit here, and people went to work on the social networks. Searches on Nesbitt turned up information that he's a disc jockey. The man is a DJ. The man is a chef who actually uses aspects of the drugs in his dishes. Wow. Double wow. The information, as it was unearthed, sent everybody literally undercover. So that, let's just say, well, that is the information that I get from the investor about this man. It's that investor who bring him. Saboto Caesar say essentially the same thing. And the information they have on the man is the same thing that Ledger get from the investor. So suddenly it is blame the investor. And the reason we say it is the biggest faux pas is because perhaps it is that the investors around have come to a recognition that anything goes in this country. We so hungry mouth. We're so hand to mouth. We're so steeped in beggar-made policies that they could get away with almost anything. So on the one hand, we're making noise about the NDP and its proposal that citizenship by investment can work effectively as it has done in St. Kitts and Nevis, in Dominica, in Grenada. Despite all of that, those countries have gone past us. Except Dominica because of the set of licks it gets from the hurricane. But they have gone past us economically. They are thriving economic countries. Thriving while we languish. So we are not doing citizenship by investment, at least not official. We are doing something else. So we have an investor who comes here and a DJ / chef is presented as a scientist. An esteemed scientist at that. And puts on a show for ministers of finance and agriculture respectively, our Invest SVG people, and a whole lot of others. Yeah? And nobody sought to investigate the expert. Why should we? The investor is bringing money into St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Why should we? Yeah? Why should we? But we're not going to ask any of our local people because they don't know anything about marijuana. Having been involved in the cultivation, use and distribution of the crop for many, many years, we don't ask them for anything. Because we rely on the experts, on the investors, who are coming into the country to invest in our country, to bring the expertise. Yeah? So they could do us anything. So if people did not go to do their own research, we would not have had the revelation that we did. Yeah? We have had no real retraction from either the investor or the ministers who were involved in this. We had no retraction, no apologies. That's not necessary. We move on to the next level as we have done. Because we're suddenly seeing a mad rush to engage in medicinal marijuana. It does not matter how we go about it, apparently. The investors bring in money to the country. We need money. That is the most important thing. Who bothering about checking expertise? What are you doing that for? You don't want the money come in the country? That different is the biggest faux pas in this country for the years. But before we get ahead of ourselves, just another look appeals to all, Vincent, to closely monitor the politics of the medicinal marijuana program that is emerging in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Monitor the politics of its own. Pay close attention to who the major players are and see exactly who are the primary beneficiaries. Isn't that what the aforementioned sordid episode suggests? But you see, this is not something that bothers the ruminants of the left and the leftovers. They would not address this in their writing. That is not sufficiently important. They have to keep lying prostrate at Papa's table, awaiting whatever drips and drops from it. But just as another look is certain that this is a case of history repeating itself, and the creation of another historical wrong. The poor will, in the midst of the medicinal marijuana program, remain decidedly poor, and may well find the jailhouse their only solace as they watch the success of the predators. Well, we want to tell you the most ridiculous statement on crime for 2018. You know it. You don't have to worry if you're not in anything. You don't have to worry. Right? And that is why people are asking, what then was Saboto Caesar's wife in? Because she got stuck up while coming home with her child. They take everything she had on her at the time. What was she involved in to become the victim of a crime? But you know it. You hear it only on Just Another Look. That's the most ridiculous statement. And the nation's fastest rising crime, rape. Rape. And more rape. And increasingly, sexual molestation in this country sees younger and younger and younger girls becoming victims. Godwin Friday in his presentation spoke about going down to as young as 5 years. You know, of 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds. We have forgotten about rape. But Godwin Friday pointed to the rape culture that is occurring in the country. The incidence of rape in this country is reflective of our stance on girls and women, our lack of respect for them. That is our reality. When a nation reaches a stage where girls from ages such as 5 through to 10 become victims of rape, they're in dire straits. they're in dire straits. The comment made by one of the nation's leading police officers speaks volumes of what is an attitude that has to be treated psychologically. We like to think that all is well with our nation, but nothing could be farther from this. There is growing lack of respect for our girls and women, as many continue to see them only as sex objects. We need perhaps to take the blame for socializing our children into the perception that they have of our girls and women, and resist the temptation to sweep this festooning problem under the proverbial. There is simply too much at stake. And finally, the heroes of 2018. Just another look, heroes of the year for 2018 are the Public Service Union's leadership. The Public Service Union's leadership. Well, to congratulate Boucher for standing his ground, for taking a leaf out of Otto Sam's book, and for leading his union in a commitment to its membership. The Public Service Union has obviously begun to apply its critical thinking skills, and they are reaping the result. Judge Esco Henry has ruled twice in succession in favor of the Public Service Union and against the Public Service Commission. You know the Public Service Commission is headed by Blazer Williams, right? In the first instance, earlier this year, Justice Henry ruled against the Public Service Commission, declaring that the court has jurisdiction to hear its claim. Remember that case, right? We read great detail about that case. The Public Service Commission was arguing that the Public Service Union could not bring the case of several of its workers, starting with the 5, could not bring it to the nation's court. Courts has no jurisdiction. Right? You see, and that's not only that last year, right? The Public Service Commission had contended then that public service orders under which public servants have to operate requires that public servants, if they want to make a claim relating to matters of the discharge of public duties, they must first receive permission from the Commission. Right? Justice Henry rejected the Public Service Commission's argument and allowed the case of the public servants brought by the PSU to go forward. And recently, she ruled in the Public Service Union's favor again. Right? So the Public Service Union brought the case for and on behalf of 5 employees. But we want to tell you that the stance of this Public Service Commission is reflective of the administration that is in government today. It is an arm of government. It is an arm of government. And the Public Service Union must have been emboldened initially by the court's ruling in favor of Otto Sam, a graduate teacher, head teacher, who slam dunked the government in court after he was summarily transferred from his area of training and competence, education, to one where he possessed neither knowledge, training, nor competence. Right? They put him over by NEMO. Now the Public Service Union and the teachers have the option of having their trade unions take their major grievances to the nation's courts. In light of the ruling by Judge Esco Henry recently. You see, Justice Henry's ruling showed that at least in the case of the 5 public servants involved, the Public Service Commission was at fault. Remember though, that the Public Service Union claimed that the Public Service Commission was not in compliance with its own regulations regarding the promotion of public servants. Claiming also that the Public Service Commission failed to observe the fundamentals of fairness, of objectivity and transparency in relation to the promotion of public service. And they show 5 cases. There are plenty more lines. Plenty. But they started with 5. And they won. And the judge ordered the Public Service Commission, get your act together. Right? We told you in the first case, over the matter of jurisdiction, Joseph Delves did an excellent job with the Public Service Union. And they brought affidavit. The Public Service Commission side brought what the judge rejected as hearsay. Communicated with the permanent secretary and the this and the that. And it leaves you wondering what it is happening at the Public Service Commission. The court ruling leaves Vincentians wondering about the individuals placed on the commission and their reasoning in matters brought before them. Now, some would suggest that in light of the court's most recent ruling, one would, in the normal course of things, expect that all of the current members of the Public Service Commission should submit their resignation. One would imagine that all of them, from the chair go right down, should submit their resignations. And that a broad-based inquiry be conducted into how government does business regarding appointments and promotions more generally. That is the thinking of a reasonable, right-thinking individual. Of course, this is not likely to happen in the context of the current Vincentian political culture. But the truth is now out. And every public servant would be questioning the critical factors that drive the members of the Public Service Commission to conduct the organization's business in such a manner that the court has had to make the ruling it had done in the recent past. Everybody must be considered. The Public Service Union, therefore, must stand tall in these times and show itself willing to genuinely represent workers in a country whose government professes to be legal. Indeed. And so, dear friends, as we always do, remind you that today, the 29th day of December 2018, marks 4,386 days since the disappearance of SVG Air J8BAX. The plane disappeared on Sunday, the 19th of November 2006, with pilot Dominic Gonzalez and one other occupant, Rashid Ibrahim. Ibrahim was not manifested because he got a ride. He was actually booked on a later SVG air flight. But I was running late. It was supposed to be an earlier flight. He was running late. And he asked for a ride with Dominic Gonzalez. So you know what that means, right? His family gets no compensation because he was manifested. They're not liable. But today also marks 2,973 days since the disappearance of J8SXY, piloted by Suresh, called out on a mercy mission. Never reached there. They never found any part of him or the plane. That occurred on the 5th of August, 2010, just inside 4 years. Previous disappearance. Another LPGA aircraft. But you know, in this season of goodwill, you ponder about whether or not Christmas is indeed a season. People say all sorts of seemingly soppy things at this time of year. But in reality, you end the season being just as bothered as before it came. We have heard so many talk about the state of crime, and all the churches have come to talk about pray for the nation, pray for crime. But the nation perhaps needs much more by way of prayer, and not just for the commission of crime, but for our own. We need prayers for what we do not do, but should do. One of the things we really should have prayed for, and should still be praying for, is justice in the case of Patricia Bowman and her husband, Alba. Because somehow we have allowed this to just go away. It could have been anybody else driving to work on that morning, that rainy morning. And somebody's wall collapses on your vehicle and you die, you're crushed to death. And the demand is that your husband, if he wants justice, if he wants any sort of compensation, that he has to make a case for it. There's something morally and ethically wrong about that there. Something wrong. But we have become so secularized. We've become so insensitive to issues like these. We are so caught up in our materialism and the materialism associated with the season of Christmas that we forgot and continue to forget its real significance. How many spare a thought for Patricia Bowman and her husband? How many consider the agony and the anguish that must be eating away at him every single day that he lives? What must he think about our system of justice in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? When we have people anxious to tell us about the law and you, but it doesn't seem to apply in his case. His case doesn't seem to merit that attention. When others can boast of how many years they've been practicing law. And they understand the inner workings of the criminal mind. But our own justice system, we omit something as important as this. Had it been the wife of the Prime Minister of this country, God, or Minister of this country, would they have been asking the relatives to make their own case, go find the resources and bring it? He will determine whether or not. Is that what we have become as a society? And yet we profess that this is the season of love, of caring and sharing. Is it really in the case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines? When you look back on 2018, have we not witnessed a society with declining employment, rising unemployment and underemployment? Have we not recognized the continuing number of murders? Have we not recognized the rape, the incidents of rape, sexual assault? Will we ever, in this country, start accusing people of sexual harassment? What have we become as a nation? As the curtain comes down on 2018, what are we really? What messages are our politicians giving? As many of them continue to lose the respect of the average Vincentian for lack of any sort of morality. Yet they offer themselves up to serve. And once elected, in their haughtiness, they forget. They believe that passing by every now and again and saying hello is what politics is. Or perhaps paying the odd bill here. When we look back on 2018, the most dangerous piece of foreboding comes from what we quoted from the Prime Minister's address at his party's convention. But when we look back on 2018, are we satisfied that as a country we recognize the importance of being a nation? We've lost the capacity to be our brother's keeper. We have become increasingly selfish. And the selfishness is best exemplified in the politics of it. When you reflect on 2018, is there not a cry for change? A fundamental change of attitude. A change of behavior. A change of the way we do things, and a commitment to once more trying to see in each other the presence of God. To see that we can do better. To not see the color of one's skin as being more important than that of another. I'm not gloating about having a PhD or almost having one as making us more valuable to our society. So not allowing the coloration of our politics to dictate who we are and what we do. These things are important. They ought to be in 2019. God bless. Enough said. You've been listening to another edition of Night Radio's Callaloo presentation, Just Another Look. Just Another Look is an innovative, exciting, albeit decidedly provocative, and yes, certainly controversial, socio-political analysis of issues of a local, regional, and international. Just Another Look is heard only on Night Radio. First aired on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Repeated on Sunday at 9. You can always catch us on the World Wide Web, www.nightradio.info, or you can check out our Just Another Look blog, www.justanotherlook.com. I am, of course, Pete Joseph.
The script.